Well, here's the highlight of the biggest stories we tracked for you. And on the local front, Nigeria spent about 1.47 trillion naira on debt service and payments in the first half of this year, and that's according to the latest data from the Debt Management Office. The CBN insists wheat will soon join the list of items restricted from the official forex allocation. The National Bureau of Statistics data also shows that the value of manufactured goods imported into the country exceeded exports by at least 4.37 trillion naira in the second quarter of this year. Emirates Airline, flag carrier of the United Arab Emirates, has also extended the resumption of flights to and from Nigeria till the 10th of this month. And now shifting focus to the global front, Facebook Corporation has blamed a faulty configuration change for a nearly 6-hour outage which started at the beginning of the week and later restored on Tuesday that prevented the company's over 3.5 billion users from accessing its social media and messaging services apps such as WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook Messenger. Worries about rising debt defaults by Chinese property developers sapped investor sentiment amid fresh credit rating downgrades and uncertainty about the fate of China Evergrande Group as it scrambles to raise cash by selling some of its assets. And oil prices on the international market by midweek jumped, with US crude hitting its highest since 2014, and Brent futures also climbed into a 3-year high after OPEC Plus group of producers stuck to its planned output increase rather than raising it further. Well, it's now time to bring you special packages prepared by our correspondent. Now, in this first report, pangolins may become extinct in no time if concerted efforts and strategies are not put in place to halt the decimation of the animal from the ecosystem. This follows the interception of more than 1.7 billion naira worth of pangolin skills by the Customs Strike Force Team Zone A in Lagos. TVC News correspondent Ifeanyi reports.
Pangolin scales have become an attractive wildlife article for illegal traders who have made Nigeria a popular transit hub for illegal wildlife smuggling. This latest seizure of 1,014 kilograms of pangolin scales and claws, worth more than 1.7 billion naira, increasingly reinforces concerns for an urgent response in tackling the illegal trade in wildlife. The Nigeria Customs Service says that intelligence enabled the tracking of the pangolin scales.
We received another credible intelligence from same international partner, Wildlife Justice Commission, and swiftly deployed our intelligence operatives with a strike force as a SWAT team. This led to the interception of one Mercedes-Benz bus. Upon 100% examinations, the bus was found to contain the following: 15 bags of pangolin scales.
The escalating illegal wildlife trade gets more worrisome, considering that continuous contact with wildlife has been identified as a likely source for viral infections. This underscores the need for an urgent action plan to cripple the criminal network, more so with Nigeria being a popular transit hub.
Nigeria is a signatory to Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. As a responsible member of the global community, we cannot allow our nation to be used as a conduit pipe for illegal trade on wildlife.
These pangolin scales are more than 1,000 kilograms, an indication that hundreds of pangolins were butchered to get this volume of pangolin scales. This is a wake-up call to governments at all levels to strengthen policies and institutional frameworks that will combat trade in illegal wildlife at global, regional and national levels, not only to conserve biodiversity, but also to support sustainable development. Ifeanyi Eze, TVC News, Lagos.
And now in the energy sector, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has also lamented the incessant increase in dues and also charges paid by its members to the Department of Petroleum Resources and other government agencies. It threatens to embark on an indefinite strike if the charges are not reversed within 3 days. The Southwest chairman of IPMAN Lamidi Tajuddin made this known while speaking at the end of a stakeholders meeting held in Ibadan. Olaide Oyewole reports.
At the meeting, which was attended by Association of Tanker Drivers and other NNPC stakeholders, deliberations were made on how to get rid of the negative impact in which the high charges had caused on their operations. The IPMAN chairman said the constant increase in fees and operational dues are making them have difficulty in running their businesses, thereby making it impossible to operate under the new DPR regime.
If government is looking for money, we pay our taxes, for crying out loud. The roads are bad. For over 20 years, Shagam-Ikorodu Road has been there unattended to. Speaking with one voice to reject the incessant increase of dues paid by our members to different government agencies, especially Department of Petroleum Resources, who has escalated renewal of licenses from less than 30,000 to almost 500,000.
He said government, who is supposed to assist them grow their businesses, has caused them to incur debt in their various livelihood.
So we are calling on DPR as a matter of urgency to reverse all these unacceptable charges within 3 days. Otherwise, we will shut down the system. This is not a threat.
He said the 3 days ultimatum would commence from the 6th of October and would be given to the Nigerian Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to revert to the old fee regimes.
And in this last report now, we have the budget presentation by President Muhammadu Buhari to the Joint National Assembly session.
It's exactly 1 year that President Muhammadu Buhari presented the 2021 budget estimates to the National Assembly. He is here again for the same exercise. In his welcome remarks, the President of the Senate applauds government's effort at adequately funding security agencies, particularly at a time the nation faces rising insecurity. He says the return to a January to December budget cycle has come to stay, but not without due scrutiny of the financial documents.
Due to paucity of revenues, the federal government has to resort to borrowing funds from both foreign and domestic sources to provide infrastructure across the country. That is why the National Assembly approved the request for borrowing. The commitment of the federal government in providing infrastructure across the country means that the funds must be raised one way or the other. Notwithstanding, government should explore other sources of funding its projects in order to reduce borrowing.
Without going into details, President Muhammadu Buhari gives an overview of the current budget and reviews the projected figures in the coming year. Statutory transfers stand at 768.28 trillion naira, non-debt recurrent cost at 6.83 trillion naira, and capital expenditure at 5.35 trillion naira. It disagrees with criticisms trailing government's borrowing plans.
We do not have a debt sustainability problem, but a revenue challenge which we are determined to tackle to ensure our debt remain sustainable.
Ahead of the launch of the 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan, the President highlights the priority of the 2022 budget.
Total federally contributable revenue is estimated to 12.72 trillion naira in 2022. Total revenue available to fund the 2022 federal budget is estimated at 10.13 trillion naira.
On his part, Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila tasked ministries, departments and agencies of government on the importance of accountability and timeliness.
We have continued obligation to ensure that in considering this appropriation bill, we make all deliberate efforts to ensure that we continue to make critical investments in education, healthcare, public infrastructure, and national security.
The 2022 budget estimates presented by President Muhammadu Buhari eras hope for the nation's economy.
Well, it's now time to delve deeper into the feature of the show today as we look deeply into our focus, the social media outage which shocked so many users globally at the start of this week. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's now deal with the crux of today's discourse. The global economy lost billions of dollars as Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram went down at about 5 p.m. local time in Nigeria on Monday. According to NetBlocks, the outage had already cost the global economy about $160 million per hour. The cost of the global outage also shows that Facebook's stock also had gone down by about 5.5% at the height of the outage. The shutdown is also reminiscent of 2019 when Facebook shut down in its biggest outage till date, a 24-hour period. NetBlocks also disclosed that about 3 billion social media users regained access to their online community late on Monday and also early on Tuesday morning as at dawn, as Facebook-owned services WhatsApp and Instagram came back online after a record of well over 7-hour outage due to a domain name server failing the naming structure that forms the web's infrastructure. Well, joining me now to discuss this and much more, I have Joseph Agunbiade, the co-founder of Budget. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you, David. Great to be here.
Well, this isn't the first time such an outage has occurred, but it still was a major shock for many users both home and abroad. Now, for so many, they had to reboot their devices severally. Some had to check their data subscription, and others just wondered if government had any hand in it. It has been a global phenomenon, and Facebook Corporation, in its reaction to this as well, has also blamed it on a faulty configuration change. What was your first reaction to this report? And then you feeling it firsthand, what was your response like?
Yeah, so I of course belong to all the categories. The first was that thinking it was government. Secondly, when the reality dawned, I actually contemplated if it was hacked also. But thank God that they were able to explain themselves that it was largely a configuration issue. And these are things I'm familiar with. So now imagine when it's a large-scale company like Facebook. And of course we also read that it impacted their internal operations, which shows the level of automation in the company itself. When we start depending so much on technology, on everything that we do, and too much automation, these are the kind of issues that we face. Because I guess if they had not locked themselves out initially, the downtime would have been shorter. If it was just the platform, the servers alone that had the issue, the router, like they said, it would have been way easier. But because they were also impacted, they had to first of all fix and get themselves in before they were able to get the server back up. And that's within 6 hours, man.
Now, humans remain very social beings, and with the outage, so many seek alternatives to chat their way through. Did this come to you as a surprise? We've seen so many platforms and brand names, some we haven't heard for some time, and then all of a sudden, boom, we hear the brand names now become the order of the day while the outage lasted. Were you surprised by all of these?
Yeah, sure. So for someone like me and for the work I do, of course, I've always known most of those platforms. So it didn't come as a surprise to me. But a lot of people, who admitted that was the first time they were hearing some of the names. I can tell you that there are more than 10 apps that are well used, that are alternative to WhatsApp. But because of the integration level of WhatsApp and the simplicity in terms of user experience is why it's been, the most preferred, communication tool. But of course, quickly people jumped on my Signal. Started seeing people like, oh, this person just joined Signal. It notifies you. The same thing with Telegram. It tells you when you have a contact who's joined, Telegram. So it was something that is expected as usual. But of course, they cannot all replace WhatsApp. And that was why, some of us couldn't wait to see WhatsApp get up. for us to start communicating again. Yeah, so we should expect more and more of that. And I know because of this incident, more and more organizations will start thinking internally, can we create our own internal communication chat app so that in case this kind of thing ever happens, we don't get stranded.
Now, for many businesses who heavily rely on social media platforms, this was quite an intense shock. Now, it's not any game to say, and also brought a level of rethink to their consciousness. Many had to start looking and then wondering whether or not running a retail or online shop goes beyond just a social media presence, especially for those that don't have active website. What do you think are the biggest mistakes with such businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises who don't necessarily have this sort of structure?
Yeah, so the simplest thing for every one of us is to take our business to the place where you have the largest customer. And that is why we are all on social media in the first place. And for those who have chosen that as an exclusive place, it's because of prioritize. You prioritize and see that if 80% of my customers are on this platform, why am I trying to create a duplicate? But of course, the quick lesson now for all of us would be to understand that why that is good and why that lasts, why that it's in use. You can always have a backup. Your website is now your backup, which you also take opportunity to promote. So social media allows you to have a username, right? So like university is at university, the website university.com. So while it lasted, why the Instagram is up and all of that, we would have promoted, or every business should have promoted their particular business name long enough so that it rings bell. So if social media ever goes down, customer knows, because it's one thing for you to even have a website, and it's another thing for your customers to know about your website when such an outage happens. And so normally it's okay to have your website, and it's ideal. Every business should. However, marketing and sales is easier on the social media platform because that is where 80-90% of our customers are. So I would recommend that all businesses should do that. And while the social media is still active, while it's not down, use that opportunity to put your website in the faces of your customers. Let them be familiar with the domain name, that speaks to how you choose the choice of your domain name, your website. Let it be the same name, so that in a situation where social media goes down, customers can easily find you via search engines like Google. It becomes a lot easier. And if they already know the domain name, they just go to your website straight and continue transaction. The thing is that there are businesses that it is actually social media that made them possible. And so those businesses, customers the business owners may not even be able to say that they want to set up their own uniquely because it will be so expensive. What we don't realize is that social media's platform is very powerful and it has a lot of the things already integrated into it. So businesses need to more and more, know the nature of business they are in and possibly find the right alternative as a backup in situation where things like this happen. Very important. And on single sign-on, I would say that technology companies now need to wake up. Single sign-on is a very dangerous thing from what we have seen. If your platform was dependent on, say, Facebook sign-in or all the other single sign-on like Twitter and all of that, the problem is that when the particular social media platform is down, you will not be able to sign into your system. So you need to start thinking of alternative way to collect your details so that if you come back with your single sign-on, the fact that your email or your phone number is associated with it, they will allow you to still log in. And if it is email originally that you used to create your account on the platform, for example, and you don't use social media, even when the email service like Gmail or Yahoo is down, you can still sign in with the email because they've taken all your full information. In single sign-on's case is they probably just kept your username from the social media platform as your unique identifier. And that makes that a little challenging. So businesses has to be aware. They have to, be conscious now on the kind of technology they are using.
Well, on a larger scale now, let's look at the president's speech on the 1st of October with government stating conditions to have Twitter back. What do you make of the lines of engagement, and how would this also redefine the heavy dependence of such platforms and online presence? And you also see investors gradually warming up to Nigeria as a tech space to invest in?
Yeah, so if you remember, some time ago, we talked about the amount of money that we are losing for shutting down Twitter in Nigeria. Unfortunately, our leaders didn't realize the import of that. And so even though we're looking for money and we're creating a lot of policies to help boost our economy, we fail to recognize the power of Twitter and most of this platform. So I'm happy that the conversation has started, but I think it shouldn't be a conversation that you are setting up committee on or taking your time. If they want to do it, they should go ahead and do it. Because it is not just going to help us, it's going to help the economy, which is going to be good on the government. And so I think it's a win-win for both parties if this platform is implemented. And of course, on the side of investors, the fewer investors that might be, or the few investors that might be left might, see that as a plus and, maybe decide not to go if they are already contemplating leaving. And of course, it might also motivate others to think that even when we have very terrible policies, we are able to reverse them. Because, it's one thing to have policies that are not good and favorable to the citizen. And another thing too, when you come to, realize that this is not good enough, based on advocacy and all that, you decide to reverse it and don't continue, and be seen as being autocratic. So I'm happy and excited that the conversation has started. But please, I will appeal to the president to do that quickly as fast as possible, because it's going to help his scorecard, even as the president.
How do you also say we encourage more indigenous tech content and platforms with the likes of Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitters and TikToks? Do you see an evolution or contribution from the Nigerian tech space to fill in some of the social media needs and gaps? And what would it take for us to have such a push from the tech sector here?
Yeah, definitely. It's a clear thing that it's a combination of things that has made this platform very successful. As a matter of fact, some of the social media platforms that were originally created by other people, if Facebook had not bought them, they probably would not have succeeded. And it goes to show that it's always about the visionary leadership first, who is behind the platform, and then money. You need to put a lot of money. I mean, WhatsApp was acquired at about $16 billion. And that's to show you how powerful it is. If it's in Nigeria, you cannot value it at that price, because first is that a lot of people are not going to adopt it. Secondly, we will probably not even build a system at such scale, because it requires a lot of expertise, and that expertise had to be paid for. And so for local investors, they will likely not be interested in investing in that. And if Facebook can have this challenge, imagine the kind of limitations we have here in a country where your platform can just be shut down overnight. So we expect more outages and all that. So I wouldn't expect that a sane investor would want to, take such a risk to invest, in social networking in this country, because we've seen what social network has faced in the past in Nigeria particularly. But to talk about it more seriously is the fact that the amount of PhDs that are required to work on these things, the amount of transparency that is required for you to run a social media platform, the amount of, all of the resources, thousands of engineers. I won't be surprised if Facebook has more than 10,000 engineers working on their platform. And those are the things that we've not seen here before. We've not seen businesses at such scale. So I wouldn't say that, it's something that we would expect very soon. Naira Land, for example, which is an example I always give, is a good example. The platform was not even built by him. It was an open source platform. He just downloaded and installed it on the server. The most useful thing with Naira Land is the fact that people keep communicating on that platform, which makes it valuable. But there has not been any innovation on the platform. There has not been anything major, of which, if it ever happens, we'll see it reflecting in the life of the founder. So for us to see any significant, anything close, maybe the few things we've seen is dating app and all of that, which is basically, very basic and simple stuff, and has not really done sizable number, as you would expect, compared to other social media platforms around the world.
And lastly now, I would like to have your forecast for the tech sector. What do you think is going to play out in the shortest possible time? And then looking at the longer frame of the evolution of the tech sector in Nigeria.
FinTech is winning currently, and that's because more and more investors are seeing the potential in the fact that there are a lot of buying and selling happening in the country. And so long as that happens, they will keep having a lot of startups doing very well within the space. EdTech is also growing, it's becoming more interesting. There are also sub areas around FinTech, like InsurTech. We also have Security and Exchange Commission, regulating and making it easier for people to get licenses to build platforms around the kind of things that they offer. We're also seeing interest around logistics tech, so these are the core areas where I've seen massive growth. Yes, and agri-tech is growing tremendously. And so in the next couple of years, we'll see growth there, except we have major disruption across other industries. Wouldn't expect to see other industries showing a lot of significant, growth. And so if you're looking to, doing a startup, these are the spaces I would recommend, to look into, except of course, if you are a major innovator, you can actually look at other spaces you can disrupt from. So that's what I'm expecting, but not exactly around social network.
Well, that's an interesting contribution there. Thank you very much for your time on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Joseph Agunbiyade.
A pleasure.
Well, just before we go now, here are graphic details of the air transportation data for the second quarter of this year as prepared by the National Bureau of Statistics. And that's it on this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for watching so far. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm David Alabi. Bye for now.